It's E3 2012. As you can tell, if you couldn't read the sign, we are here in front of the 2K booth over in the West Hall. XCOM Enemy Unknown's being shown inside, both playable and in a theater setting. And I am joined now by Garth DeAngelis, lead producer on XCOM Enemy Unknown. Garth, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I just got to play your game, and I really enjoyed the experience. Now, Firaxis, obviously a studio that has a lot of great experience with strategy games, but this is a little more, it's a smaller, more tactical experience, coming off of Civ 5 and then also, the Civ 5 expansion. How does that adjustment happen? Like, what is it that you guys need to work through to kind of make those changes?
Yeah, I mean, XCOM obviously is a humongous strategy game, so that fits in with the Firaxis pedigree quite nicely, but it is a little bit of a cultural shift from Civilization and the other products that Firaxis made. I mean, this is a bit darker in tone. You got some gruesome stuff going on with the chrysalid, and as you saw in the beginning, the guy
I saw his guts!
You did, you saw that, right? Yeah. And that's not generally Firaxis, and it's funny, Jake and our design team, he had discussions with Sid Meier about it, in a nutshell, basically like, are you okay with this? Here's the line that we don't want to cross, but the chrysalid, that thing is an alien of nightmare, and we need to make him as deadly as possible, so we got some free passes with the chrysalid.
So playing the game, got to see some of the close-up squad-based tactical action in the game. Had my 4 squad mates there. I understand we can go up to 6, but there's also kind of a bigger metagame there. Back at the base. That's this other layer of strategy to the experience that didn't really get to see a lot of there. Can you talk a little bit about that part of XCOM?
Yeah. I mean, the strategy layer, that is where the player gets to run their own secret underground base, and it gets really cool. And you start out with these basic static rooms where the cycle, the loot that you bring back from combat, you sort of give that material to the scientists that are waiting for it in the research labs. And then they can take that material and say, look, I can do these 3 or 4 things with it. You tell me what you want me to do. That will eventually lead to you interacting with the engineering department, where they can make these tangible items that add these awesome new gameplay benefits that you can then bring back to the combat layer to use against the aliens. XCOM's all about evolution and keeping up with those aliens, so you need that strategy layer, the mind of XCOM in HQ, to get those materials that you want. That's only the tip of the iceberg with HQ. You have interception, you got soldier promotions, this whole leveling tree, you got base expansion where you can customize what you saw and make it this epic sprawling base deep into the earth, so there's a lot there.
A lot of moving parts there, it seems, and that was always the case with the original XCOM, was that there was just so much to do at any given moment. It could be kind of overwhelming even. How do you address that? How do you make sure that the player understands where they need to go, or kind of like highlight the stuff that's important for them?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the original XCOM, when I sat down and played it, there is so much there to it. And if you can get up that learning curve, which is very steep in the original XCOM, it's a beautiful experience, right? But we said we want to lessen that learning curve a little bit, and that's part of the experience that you played today, which we're calling the controlled experience. We wanted to peel off layers of the strategy layer one at a time, so you understand first what mission control is, then what the research labs are, then barracks. All these things are introduced to you one at a time, because there are a lot of moving parts, and we want any gamer to be able to enjoy it, not just the hardcore ones that go through that tough uphill battle to get to the good stuff. So the mode that you played is optional, just to be clear. If you want to dive right into the Wild West and be off the rails and have everything open to you immediately, you can do that. But we wanted to give the option, again, for anyone to be able to enjoy XCOM.
Now, I was playing a PC version here. It's what you're showing off, but I was playing it using an Xbox controller. Now, you guys have had experience with console games in the past, the Civ Rev a few years back, but what are the specific challenges of trying to map a game that has these levels of complexity to it onto a controller like that, and do you feel like that hindered or helped in any way?
Yeah, I mean, the controller example is really interesting, because when you think about that, just without actually sitting down and breaking down what you need, you're like, oh my god, how can you put something as complex as XCOM onto a gamepad? There's just too much to do and too many systems. But our UI team and design team did a fantastic job. They did an elegant job of porting everything you need to do onto a controller. And the feedback that we've gotten when you hold the controller in your hand, it feels pretty intuitive, and you can play it, you can play all of the elements of it, it's certainly fun to do.
Now, going back to what you said earlier about kind of the cultural shift for XCOM, this is also a much more cinematic game than I think we've seen out of Firaxis in the past. You know, a lot of strategy games were playing mostly from that safe kind of isometric overhead perspective. In this game, it seems like we're getting down into the action a lot more. You're kind of zooming in and showing that stuff. You know, not necessarily, or clearly not something that was in the original XCOM game. What was the decision to kind of embrace that? Right.
Well, actually, that is in the original XCOM. You can cut down to these glam cams in the 2D sprites. I'm just kidding. That wasn't in the original XCOM at all. So we didn't get inspiration from that in the original XCOM. But that was something, you know, we made a laundry list of the things that we needed as hardcore XCOM fans from the original XCOM. But then one of the things that we really wanted to do to modernize the game, to make it feel more dynamic and action-oriented, were those cameras that you experienced. Because there's really cool things that you're doing. Even though it's a turn-based game, you're making these decisions with your units one at a time. But then, why not pull the camera down there and let them see these sort of action-oriented results of your decision? It's almost like directing an action movie, and it made sense to us. It made it feel more exciting. If gamers don't like it, they can turn it off. So it's an option that they can certainly turn off, but we just think it makes it feel a little bit more modern.
All right, one more question for you, Garth. Why do the XCOM soldiers hate Windows so much? I want to say at least 2 or 3 times during the demo, there was a point where I was entering a building, and it was like, okay, go through the window. You know, they could probably open them up. Instead, they go bursting through, shattering glass everywhere.
They are hyper-aggressive soldiers. We have the best in the world, and they actually don't even know they went through a window. They just think it's an opening. They're almost like a bird, and they're just like, I'm going through this thing, and then after the fact, they're like, oh, that kind of hurt. But that's why, you know, it's one of the things that they need to work on in the barracks. You can actually give them a perk eventually where they know to open windows and not bust through. That's also a joke, a bad joke. But yeah, it's a good observation on your part.
When are you guys coming out? Do you have a release date yet?
We do. We're coming out October 9th for PC, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3, and we're very excited.
Fantastic. Garth, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Thank you, guys. We love your stuff. Thank you.